Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's locked.
Okay. Thanks.
So it
Thanks,
looks like
Ellie.
I have to do the recording. Yeah. So I did
Okay.
that.
Okay. Well, take it from the top, Hugh.
All right. Um, Wait, it's showing your team screen here. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So again, this is our first ever live SOA EXCELerate workshop. Today is the intermediate session. Next slide, please.
Yeah, sure. Brief intro. I'm Thurinder Kotagoda from the University of Manitoba, and I'm co-hosting with Hugh Q from University of Saskatchewan?
Regina.
Regina. Okay.
Yep. All right. So the topics we'll be covering today are some lookup functions, formula checks, error handling, conditional formatting, the evaluate formula tool, tracing precedence and dependence, the goal seek tool, and a little bit more graphing with some combo charts. We're going into this assuming that you all have some basic understanding of Excel, or you have watched our beginner session video, which aired 2 weeks ago, thanks to our fellow student ambassadors, Alex Palmer and Tavion Marshall. So if you are confused at any point, feel free to ask any questions here in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those. And with that, let's get right into the next slide. First up, we have XLOOKUP. This is one of the most important and common formulas that you will encounter. And its main function is to retrieve data from a specific array based on your desired lookup parameter. So let's say, for example, very simple example, you had an investment and the value of that investment changes every day. And you want to use the value of that investment in another formula. You would use the lookup function to retrieve the data recursively for you. And the syntax looks a little bit something like this. And just for this example, I'll try to explain some of these parameters. So the first parameter is the lookup value. That's the value that we are using as our reference. So for example, in that investment example, the lookup value would be the date that we are trying to find the value for. Then next, we have the lookup array. That would be where the dates are located in our data set that we are pulling from. And then finally, the return array would be the value that we're trying to return from our data set once again. And don't worry if this seems a little bit confusing, it'll make more sense with the demonstration. So I'll pass it along to Thurinder for the demo.
Yep. So we will start off, and does everyone have the Excel sheet that I sent you guys? Or has everyone got to that yet? Please put in chat if you haven't. If you don't have the Excel sheet open. Okay, looks like people are good. Yeah, so the first thing we're going to be looking up is here. It's something called the loss limit. And we are going to be looking that up based on, or I should probably give a bit of an intro to this sheet though. Okay, so you have, this is kind of a PNC example because I'm doing a PNC internship. And so you have some people, first name, last name, you have a policy number, you have a street, province, and then a description of their loss, what actually happened. So in a minute, we're going to categorize these losses, but we're not doing that yet. You have the premiums, which is what they paid, and then the loss that occurred. This is for 2023, and then there's another one for 2024. And then you get here. There's a loss limit, which we're going to be looking up based on... based on the loss category, which... Okay. Okay. Okay, can everyone take this cell here, H31, and then paste it into loss category? So that's just, you go here, copy, you highlight, and then you want to paste formula. or just paste, I think is fine. It Can everyone give me a thumbs up if that worked? Okay, got one person. Can I get a couple more? Okay, well,
Taringo, do you mind trying that again, please?
yeah, for sure. So you just take this cell, so the reason I have these down here is in case you ever can't figure out a formula, the formula is here. So you just take this, you copy it, and then you're gonna paste it. And then like if you highlight a lot of cells, you can go right click and then paste and paste all of them here. Can anyone not do that?
Mine's saying like I have a hashtag error on the cell. I don't formula parse error. Do you know what that is?
Are other people getting errors as well? Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, if you're getting an error, can you type just type fire and then run it down to like all these will say fire, and then the next four are storm, and then all the rest are water.
Oh, so I think my error is just because I had to request edit access.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you just accept it, then it should work.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, so how is that step going for people? Can everyone at least like either do this or type in fire and then storm and then water? If you're unsure of which one it is, like the description will have it in there. That's part of the exercise. Can I add a poll on here? Okay. Okay, we're gonna be moving on. Yeah, so you should be able to either, I guess, okay, for anyone who has newly joined, we're using this Excel sheet. So if you can go there, download it, and then you get started. Specifically, if you ever have an unfilled column that you can see needs to be filled, you just take the formula from down here and then paste it on, and it will work, or it should work. And if that hasn't worked for you, then just like type fire and then paste, copy that, paste it down, and then do storm and water. And that should work if you're having trouble with the formula for some reason. Okay, and with that, we're going to move on and we're going to actually get to XLOOKUP. Okay, XLOOKUP. Just confused. Okay, so for XLOOKUP, what we're doing is we have a loss limit, and it's going to be based on the category that that we had it at. So if I type in XLOOKUP, I take my lookup value, which is going to be fire, or whatever the, it will be fire. It's whatever the first one is. And then comma, and then I have a lookup array. So I take my value. This is what's happening in the formula. I take my value, I go to the lookup array, which is going to be this first one. So my lookup array is here. It's just these three because I'm looking up fire in firestorm and water. And then I have a return array. So if fire, it takes fire, matches it with the first one, then I have a return array here. So then it's going to give me an output of this first one. And close bracket. And now it's giving me my loss limit. And the nice thing about tables is that when you do the first one, it automatically pastes it all the way down. And that just makes things easier. Is anyone having trouble with this? Can you react if you got this so far? Okay, got one reaction from Mary. Can I get some more? If it's not working for you, put it in chat. We need to figure it out.
I think we're good to keep moving along as long as people don't type in chat here.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so that was XLOOKUP. Once again, you have your lookup value, which is what you're going to base it on. So here, I'm basing it on the loss category. That's how I'm going to find my loss limit. I'm basing it on the loss category. So I have my lookup value. Then I go to my lookup array. I'm looking up the lookup value in the lookup array. So I'm looking up fire in this array of firestorm water. Then I have a return array, which is my output, which is here in this case, close bracket, and then that gives me my loss limit. And over to you, Hugh.
Just before we move on to the next slide, Nancy is asking for the steps one more time, and we should probably address that name error.
Is Nancy getting a name error, or?
No, different person's getting the name error.
Okay. Okay, so the steps are that you should have been able to copy this. Just right click, copy. Highlight the cells that you're pasting it in, and then right click, paste. And that should have worked. If that doesn't work for some reason, anything that says fire just type on the right side fire here. And again, you can copy this. You can type it in once, copy, paste it into these cells. And then the same for storm and water. Then after you've done that, you go to here, XLOOKUP. And so once again, you have you type in equals XLOOKUP. Nancy, is this making sense so far?
Yes, I guess on my table, on my XLOOKUP, I have all names, so I didn't realize I needed to delete that and then start all over again, which is what I just did. So
Okay. Is it working now though? Did you do it already or?
yeah, I already copied the first column. I'm on the XLOOKUP right now, so I
Okay.
wanna. I'm just gonna delete the name error that's coming.
Yeah. So Nancy, if you're following along, you just take your lookup value, which is your loss category, and then comma, and then you go here to your lookup array. You're going to put that in. And then you're going to put in your return array here. And then it's going to give you the output that we're looking for, which is that loss limit for 2023 specifically. Did that work, Nancy?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Over to you.
All right, so the next few lookup functions are pretty similar to XLOOKUP. So we'll go through a few of these first, and then we'll go back to the demo. So next up, we have VLOOKUP. The purpose of VLOOKUP is essentially the same as XLOOKUP, except it is limited to only vertical arrays, hence the V in VLOOKUP. The syntax looks a little bit like this. And another weakness with this function is that you can't insert columns without breaking the formula. So let's say we have the data that we're looking for in column B, and then for some reason we need to add another column before it. So that data now moves to column C. The formula would still look at column B where it's different data now, and the formula breaks down. And with that question, and XLOOKUP doesn't have that same issue. So now that begs the question, why are we going over VLOOKUP? Well, XLOOKUP came out in 2019, and plenty of people have been using Excel before 2019, and those people still look up VLOOKUP or still use VLOOKUP just out of force of habit. And in your career, not only will you have to make your own spreadsheets where we recommend that you use XLOOKUP, but you'll also have to use, edit, or validate the work of other people, meaning that you will still encounter this function quite often. So it's important to know how it works and understand the limitations of it, just like our next example in the next slide here, which is HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP is essentially an identical formula as VLOOKUP, except the H stands for horizontal, so it looks at horizontal arrays. The syntax is also virtually identical, and the limitations are the same as well. And before 2019, to circumvent the limitations of HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, people used the combination of two functions, index and match. So index match, if we look at the syntax here, you can see that the parameters are relatively similar to the parameters we saw for XLOOKUP. It was actually a clever way that people found to combine these two formulas to be able to look up both horizontal and vertical arrays at the same time. However, now with the introduction of XLOOKUP, that can cover most of your jobs. But again, it is important to know how these work in the case that you work with spreadsheets that you personally didn't make. And the last of our lookup functions is the search functions, which can find specific strings or text and can also return the position of that text, which essentially means, for example, if I want to look up the letter T in the word cat, it would return a 3 because T is the third letter of the word cat. And yeah, that was a lot of information there, but once we get back to the demonstration, I'll pass it back over to Rindu. It'll clear up a lot of things. And again, feel free to drop any questions in the chat anytime.
Yeah, that was a great explanation, especially that search function, which can be hard to explain sometimes. Yeah, and we'll get back into it. So I kind of had some suggestions, but I think we will try this next one with VLOOKUP instead. So yeah, in your loss limit 24 column, you're going to type in equals VLOOKUP. And once you've done that, this is, again, a little bit similar to XLOOKUP. So we're going to start with our lookup value here. And again, that is going to be our loss category. So you're going to click on the first value there of loss category, which is fire. And then this time you have a table array. So instead of a lookup array and a return array, you're going to have both of those in the same array. And you'll see what I mean when I go here. So just scroll to your right. Instead of just, like having a lookup array and a return array, I'm going to highlight the whole table. So I have a table array here. And then to specify which column I'm actually looking at, there's a column index number. So in this case, I'm looking at the third column, which you can see right here. Should have spaced these out a bit more. But so I'm looking at loss limit 24. So therefore, I'm looking at loss limit 24 here. And again, so I start with this, which is my loss category of the row that I'm on. I look that up in my table array, and it's going to default, like if you highlight a table, it's going to look for your lookup value in the first column. So that's important to know. It won't just, or I don't think it'll look for it. Let's see if this works. If I highlight this, what's going to happen? No, yeah, it doesn't do that. So yeah, you need to highlight your table array, and whatever you're looking up needs to be in the first column. And then after that, you can specify which column you want outputted. So that's column 3, which is loss limit 24. And you click enter and it'll show up. And again, the nice thing about a table is that it goes all the way down. So that was VLOOKUP. And then kind of moving on here, but we're going to try the next one with index match. As for HLOOKUP, it's VLOOKUP, but horizontal. And since my data isn't horizontal, we're not going to go through it. And yeah, so I'm going to get to index match. Did anyone have questions about VLOOKUP? Was anyone having trouble with it? If you are, please put it in chat. If you got VLOOKUP, can you, I don't know, react, like give a thumbs up or a heart or clap or something? Thanks. Got a couple people. That's good. Yeah, and again, if you're having trouble, put it in chat, and otherwise I'll go on to index match. Okay. Going on to index match here. Equals index. That's the first part. And then you remember how I'm supposed to do this? I honestly don't use this function. I think I'm doing this right. Yeah, I'm doing this right. Okay. Okay, so for index match, I've got an array, which is my lookup array here. And then I've got a row number. So my row number is going to be well, my row number is going to be like found using this match function. So I type in, again, that's like I type in index. I put in my lookup array here, which is table 3, comma, and then I'm going to put in my row number by using the match function. So I'll type in match. And then at match, I'll go to my lookup value, which is fire. And then I go to my lookup array, which is here, which is just these three. Yeah, okay. Nope, this is wrong. Okay, sorry, restarting, guys. But okay, I have index and I have my return array. Then I'm gonna go here, and for my row number, which is what I'm looking for, I'm gonna go type in match. Is everyone still with me so far? Like, is this making sense? Can you react if it is? Yeah. All right, sounds good. Okay, so index my return array, which is here, which is loss limit 24, or oh shoot, this time I'm doing the names. Okay. My return array is going to be here, which I need to rename this, but this should be name bucket. So what we're doing here is just like kind of categorizing the name. So I have like all of the letters, and I'm going to categorize it into some name buckets here, which is like A to E, F to K, L to P, Q to U, V to Z. Okay, so this is my name bucket. That's my return array. And then I'm doing a row number, which is going to be done by the match function. So I'll type in match. And then I'm going to be looking up. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to be, and this is where it gets a little technical. You're going to type in left, and then you're going to type in the name, then you're going to type in 1. So all this does is I take just the first letter of the name. If you type in left, then the value, and then 1, it's taking the first letter from the left of the name, which is going to be the first letter of the name. So I get A. And by the way, this is another useful tip where if you highlight something and all the brackets line up like it's actually complete, Excel will show you what it's supposed to output. So that's an easy way to find out any errors you may be having. Okay, so once I have A, then I'm going to go to my lookup array, which is here. So I'm looking up A in here, and then once it does, it's going to give me the output, which is that return array at the beginning over here. And then bracket for match. So now when I do this, match gives me 1, first row, right? And then it takes the first row of table 35 loss limit, which I need to rename as name bucket. So that's here. And then one more bracket for the index function, because this bracket is for the index function here. And you can see that when I hop over this a little bit, it's highlighting the corresponding bracket. So that's an easy way to tell where you're at. But anyway, so once I've done that, enter, and it gives me my name buckets. Okay, that was a tougher one. Is that making sense to people? Yeah. Does anyone want another demo? Like anyone at all? Like if it's not working for you, let us know.
I think we're good to go ahead.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So your name bucket should look like this. And yeah, once again, index match, you have index, you have your return array, and then you have match and your lookup value and your lookup array. So it's very similar to VLOOKUP. The things are just mixed up a little bit. And yeah. Okay. I think I'm turning it back over to Hugh. Did I get through everything? Okay. Okay, I guess just for practice, we can do another one here, which is, again, you're doing index match, so equals index, index, bracket. And then again, this time you're doing the loss limit, which is just these. Let's pick 2023. So you have your return array, which is the actual loss limit. And then you have your row number. So for your row number using the match function, open bracket, lookup value, I'm looking up fire. And then I'm looking up fire in my lookup array here. And close bracket, and one more close bracket. And I think I should be good. Yeah. Did that make sense to people? Are people getting these numbers? Is anyone not getting these numbers? Okay, thanks for the reactions. And yeah,
So
we can
I just
do-
want to ask a quick question on behalf of the students. So if you were to build your own spreadsheet from scratch, and you want to use the XLOOKUP, that is pretty much the one and only one you need to use, right? And then all the other ones you're demonstrating is just if you were using other spreadsheets that have these older Excel functions, right? But XLOOKUP is one for all. Is that
Yep,
correct?
that's correct. As of 2019, I don't want to use the word obsolete, but essentially the other lookup functions are kind of obsolete. Even index match doesn't have the same weaknesses as VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. But if we have a big sheet with a lot of these formulas, XLOOKUP will run quicker than index match as well. So in most, if not all cases, it's beneficial to use XLOOKUP if you're making your own sheet.
Sounds good. I honestly, I thought index match might have been better for memory use, but if that's not the case, that's even better. Okay, and then we have one more here, and you can just pick your favorite lookup function to use. I'm going to use XLOOKUP. Type in XLOOKUP, and we're going to look up the region. And we're going to look that up based on the province. So XLOOKUP, gonna make this full screen. XLOOKUP, and then you go here, you pick your province. That's my lookup value. And then I go to my lookup array, which is right here. I'm gonna looking up ON in this case in here. And then that's my lookup array. I put in my return array here, which is the region, and close bracket. And then it gives me the region that these losses were in. How'd people do with that one? Can you give me a reaction if it went well? Thanks. Is it, does anyone need another demonstration, or if you're not getting it, please let us know. Okay, well, yeah, if that's looking good, we are gonna move on.
All right. Yeah, and from here on out, if there's any questions, please drop them in the chat. And if there's any questions with the demonstration, unmute your mic and please speak up. Just for the sake of time, we're already 38 minutes through, so we'll try to get through these as quick as possible. Next up, we're done with the lookups, and now we're on to the formula checks. And the first of our formula checks is the if function. This, again, is one of the most common formulas used in Excel, and it returns a true or false based on your desired if statement. And I think many of us in here have probably taken an intro to computer science class, and the if statement is very similar to if in computer science, if not even simpler, because the for when you think of if else, the else statement is already nested into our function here with the value if true and value if false. And the syntax looks a little bit like this. We'll give everyone a second to take a look at that. And then we'll move on to the next formula check, which is the and or function. These functions work great in conjunction with the if function. For example, right now, if function alone only allows us to have one parameter for the if statement. But if we use and or, we can have multiple parameters as our parameter for the if statement. And the syntax looks like this. And for or as well, the syntax is exactly the same, except for the fact that you use the word or, obviously. And then next up, the last of our formula checks we'll go over today is number. This returns as true if the reference cell has a number. So if the cell you're looking at is a number, it'll give you a true value. If it's not a number, it'll give you a false. And again, this is best used in conjunction with the if function. And the syntax is very simple with this one. It looks a little bit like this. And then with that, I'll hand it back over to Rindu for a demo.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are here. We've got to do a quick formula, which is losses over premiums. So basically, you're seeing if the insurance company made money or lost money based on the premiums that you got and then the losses that you got. So very simple, equals loss divided by premium. And yeah, so you're just going to enter that. And then it's going to give you, like if the number's above 1, it means that the loss was more than what you got. And if it's below 1, the loss was less than what you got. And again, we're going to copy this for 2024. Again, equals loss divided by premium. And enter. In this case, I need to do a little bit of formatting because this looks terrible. Is everyone good with that? I think it should be fairly straightforward. Okay. If there's nothing in chat, I'm gonna move on here. Just highlight these. Mine turned out weird. I'm not sure if yours did. And you can just go to here, which is the number of decimal places. And I just go here. It says decrease decimal. And I'm just going to click that a bunch of times. Then I have 2 decimals left. That's kind of what I wanted. And yeah, so this is where we're at right now. And then, okay, so for right now, we've got essentially some flags here, right? So what that means is, or like this is like a column where we can test things. The first thing I'm going to do, wait, I didn't need these, but whatever, it's good to have. Flag 23 is we are gonna check whether this loss exceeds your loss limit, which is here, right? So I've got loss 2023 and I've got loss limit 2023, and I'm gonna see which one, or if it exceeds it. And if it exceeds it, it's just gonna give it true. So I'm gonna start here, equals, we're gonna do an if statement. If loss 2023 is greater than, for the greater than symbol, it's just shift. It's the key where your period is. Just shift, press that. Should be fairly straightforward. Loss 2023 is greater than your loss limit 2023, which is this, and comma. So that was my logical test, right? So that's the first part of an if statement. If, and then you have a logical test. And then if it's true, we're just going to write true. And if it's false, we're just going to write false. Makes it super easy to find out. And yeah, has anyone had trouble with this? Okay, if there's nothing in chat, just close bracket and enter. And then you're getting some results here. We are going to copy that for 24, except with different numbers. So again, equals if, and for 2024, we're going to go to loss 2024 is greater than. Okay, we still have one loss limit. That's fine. Oh, no. Loss limit 2024, close bracket, and enter. Oh, whoops. I'm not done yet. If it is, true. And if it's not, false. Enter. And so now we've got these. Is everyone good with that so far? Yeah, awesome. Thanks for the reactions. Again, if you're having trouble, please tell us in chat and we can help you out. Okay, so if you're good with that, we are going to move to the OR function. So if I just want to see whether either of these were flagged, I'm going to use the OR function, right? So I'm going to type in equals OR, open bracket. Then in this case, like I would use a logical test. But since this is the logical test, I can just put in this, comma, this, 23 and 24, close bracket. So if either one of these is true, it's going to give it true. And then if it's like, if both of them are false, it's going to give me false. I'm sure you're all familiar with OR functions by now. And yeah, enter, and you're good. And then you're going to see if both of them cause an issue. So if both of them exceeded the limit, and to that, or to do that, you go here, equals, and again, false, or flag 23, flag 24, close bracket. Don't forget your comma in between them, and enter. How is that for people? Is anyone having trouble? Good, that's good. Okay. If we want to get a little bit more fancy, what you can do is instead of going true and false, we can just take out the false here and just put double quotation marks. What that's going to do is it's going to give me a blank if it's false. That way it's not horrific to look at. So if I enter this, it just shows me the trues. That's a little bit nicer. Yeah, if you want to do that. Oh. Okay. That does mean these will fail, but you know, like there is a way around that. Essentially, you just take this logical test here, copy that, and then instead of saying flag 23, you're just gonna put that in here. And then you're gonna do the same thing for 24. You're gonna take the logical test that we did, copy, put it in here, and then that way you can do that blank thing, and it'll look a little nicer. But anyway. Yeah, so if you're good with that, we can kind of go back here to this is number and search function. This is a little bit of a mess, so I just want you to delete this first cell. And we're going to start kind of brand new. Essentially, the first thing you're going to do is search equals search. And then you're going to find, what are you going to find? Well, in this case, you're going to find fire. Quotation mark, fire. The quotation marks are very important. If you don't do that, then it doesn't realize that fire is a word and it thinks it's a function, and then you get an error with it. You're going to find fire within this description here. And yes, if you enter, that's going to give you a number. But then if it can't find it, it's going to give you this hashtag value error. So to fix that, what you're going to do is you're going to add the isNumber function in front. So instead of giving you an error, if it's not a number, it's going to say false, right? So I go isNumber, and then this value, and then close bracket on the other side. And then it gives me a true if it found fire in the word, and false if it didn't. And then from there, you're going to add an if. Is everyone good so far? Is anyone having trouble at all? If you are, please put in chat. Okay, so if you're good with that, then you're going to add an if in front of that. And then this is going to be our logical test right here. We're checking whether fire is in the word, and if it is, it's going to return a number. And then if it returns a number, then isNumber is true. So if I highlight this, I get the word true. And yeah, so I have an if, I have a logical test, it's true. And so if it's true, I'm going to write fire. And then if it's false, I'm not going to write anything. And then I have my loss category, it's going to say fire. And yeah, so that's kind of how that works. This is just doing the same thing for water and storm. That's all it is. But I'm not going to go through that. Just you can figure that out on your own time. And so once you're done, you can just copy and paste this back in here. And then it's kind of going to go back to the way it was. But that's how you would have that isNumber function or the if function in there. And then we covered these. We have our or and our and we should be good. And once again, if like any of this is causing you any trouble, just click on these formulas. Like I can literally click on all of these and just paste them up top, and it'll do it for you. So if you're having trouble at all, like just take the formula, it's right under the column that it's supposed to be under, and paste it in, and it should work. That's kind of, at least that's how I designed this thing. And yeah, so that is where we are right now. If you're having trouble, please let us know, and if not, we're going to move on.
All right, and just for the sake of timing, just because we are falling behind pace a little bit, from now on, we'll stop pausing and make sure that everyone's okay. If there's any issues or concerns, please put it in the chat or speak up, and then we'll address any problems as they come up. All right, now we're on to our error handling formulas. As you can see in the demo, errors happen all the time. In fact, I would go a step further and say if you never encounter an error for the first bit of your actuarial career, something is more wrong than seeing an error in your spreadsheets. Our first one is the if error formula. This function allows you to hard code a different value in the case your formula or cell returns an error message. So let's say, actually, first of all, the syntax looks a little bit like this. And the most common application would be a case where you have a value being divided by the output of a formula, let's say. But let's say hypothetically that formula returns a 0. Obviously, you can't divide anything by 0, and you will get a divide by 0 error, which is that first example you see here on this slide. This can easily be cleaned up using this function. Let's say we have a case where instead of an error, if the formula doesn't work out, we just want to have that cell be a 0. Then in this case, we would write the value would be the cell in question, and the value if error, we would write 0 in there. So in the case that we do get an error, it would come out as a 0. And then the next function that we have is if NA. This is very similar to if error. It's just specifically for the NA or not available error, which is incredibly common. This error occurs when the formula has no value to pick up from the cell it's looking at, and it comes in very, very handy for bug fixing. And I know this may now beg the question, what if we get a different type of error? And that's where our next formula comes in, which is error.type. This function returns a number based on the type of error you want to clean up. This one is different from the other two that we covered, where it doesn't give you that else condition that you can put in the case of an error. It just denotes a number for every error in Excel, and you have to leverage the if function if you want to have an else statement to essentially put in a different value in the case of an error. Or if you're doing some validations, there's some cases where you might want to identify the type of error you're having. However, you likely won't have to use this function too much unless you're working in a very specific scenario that needs to parse through many different types of errors. But it is still nice to know in the back of your mind, because I can guarantee that at least one of us here throughout the duration of our career will have to use this at least once. And with that, we'll go on to the next slide real quick, which is the list of errors and the number corresponding to it. If you guys would like to take a quick screenshot, or we can send this out after as well if you would like. And then with that, I'll pass it back to Thurindu for the demo.
Okay, yeah. So as Hugh mentioned, an extremely common application of this is if you're doing some kind of division, which we just did here. So if you're taking your losses and you're dividing it by premiums, well, if your premium is a 0, if I delete this, then it's going to give me an error. In this case, it's a divide by 0 error. So what we're going to do is, this is our value that we're looking at, and we're just going to add an if error in front. So if error, open bracket, then I have my value. And then, if it returns an error, which it is right now, then I'm going to do, you can put a 0, or you can put a double quotation, or just anything to let people know that it's an error. And once you've done that, close bracket, and then it'll kind of paste that formula down. So if I delete a couple more of these, now it gives me a blank, but it doesn't give me an error. Versus since I haven't done it here, it is giving me an error for these ones. Yeah, so once again, if you want to kind of fix your sheet, it's 300 for water, 100 for storm, and then 200 for fire. So I'm just going to put back my numbers because I need them for other stuff. But that is your if error. And then, yeah, so if NA would work the exact same, you literally just substitute error for NA. And this is good if, like you're okay maybe with other errors, but you do want to see, like, if the value is not available, well, what's going on? If you want to see that, you can just put your if NA. And yeah, and then it'll kind of give you, like, if you're specifically kind of looking for that error. But in general, if error is fine, and you can just use that. I'm not going to be doing that error.type function, since you probably will never see it, and we are short on time anyway. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Hugh.
We are now done for the formulas for today. We'll give you guys' brains a little bit of a break here. We're going to go a little more into the additional tools that Excel has to offer. First, we have conditional formatting. This is a tool in your ribbon under the home screen, or under the home tab, as seen in the picture here. And this is used to automatically format cells based on the value of that cell. So, for example, we may want cells with negative values, for example, to be red. This tool is incredibly useful for validations, checks, bug fixing, and I personally use this tool almost every day at my work for validations. And if we go to the next slide here, there are different ways that you can conditionally format these cells. So first, we have highlight cell rules. That is used for greater than, less than, between, and equal statements. So the prior example with negative cells being red would be a less than 0, and it would use this one. Then we have top/bottom rules, which is used for ranking cells. So let's say we have a list of investment portfolios. Let's say we want the top 3 to be highlighted as green and the worst 3 to be highlighted as red. We would use this one. Next, we have data bars. This simply just adds horizontal bars into the cell to visualize a number. So the greater the number, the bigger the bar. Next, we have color scales, which applies a gradient of colors based on cell values, which is similar to ranking, just for different scenarios. So for an example, let's say we have a scale, just a simple example. Obviously, you won't see this one in your actual career, but let's say like a scale of temperatures. We can say blue for low and red for high. It would then denote the red, your highest temperature as red, your lowest temperature as blue, and all the temperatures in between as the colors in between, hence the name gradient. Then we have icon sets, which display icons based on your values, such as an up arrow for increasing, down arrow for decreasing, and that's just one of many ways it can be applied. Then lastly, we have new rule, which allows you to write your own custom formula for formatting in case these previous examples isn't enough for whatever visual representation that you want to portray in your Excel sheet. So with that, I'll hand it back to Thirindu here for the example.
Yeah. Okay, so we have, all kinds of things you can do with that. I'll start with just this column here. It's kind of easy to look at. Highlight that. I'm on the Home tab, go to Conditional Formatting. And so you can do stuff like I can highlight anything greater than 1 with light red text. And you can see that right here, right? I can cancel. I can go top 10 items, bam. And then I can change 10. I can go 2, go 5, and it does that pretty easily. If I go back here, then I can also do data bars. This one's pretty interesting. And yeah, so it literally shows you a bar where that data is. And then I don't have it, like I'm using Control Z to undo in case you're wondering, but if I type Control Z, that's gone. Color skills is actually a really cool one. Again, I guess it's kind of the same idea as the data bar, is it like, the darker the color in this case. Okay, this isn't a very good one, honestly. But yeah, if I go to color scales, I really like this white green one here. And yes, so you can green is the lower values and then white is the higher ones. And honestly, I think that's kind of not what I would like to go for. So you can just go here. If you go to more rules, I'm gonna do this. Oh, I'll delete that one. I'll go here, I'll edit. And then what you can do is, like, if I wanted white to be the bottom and then green to be the top one here, I can just do that. I prefer that. So now I flipped it and all the low values are in white and all the high ones are in green. Yeah, and once again, like, you can clear everything. Like if you just clear the rules, then that's gone. Or if I had some kind of formatting on here, if I did like top 10%, go to manage rules, you click on it, delete rule, and then it's gone. And yeah, I think that was that.
Okay, and now we're on to the evaluate formula tool. This allows you to jump into a formula and see every step that the formula takes to return the value of that cell. So basically, instead of running multiple parameters instantly in a cell, you saw before with XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, there's a bunch of different parameters. The moment you press enter, it returns a value. Sometimes you might not get the value you want, and you might not know why, especially when the sheet gets really complicated. So what the evaluate formula tool does, it allows you to see every single step that Excel takes so that you can jump in and see exactly where things go wrong. Or even if nothing is wrong, you can use this tool to see where it's pulling the data from. This will be incredibly useful for validations and figuring out formulas you've never used, or if you have to use a sheet that somebody else created and you have no idea how it works, this is a great tool for you to use to see where it's pulling all the data from, where all the numbers go, how each formula processes the values too. And as seen in the picture here, it's located under formulas, and it's this little FX icon. And if you have a wider resolution on your screen than my work laptop, it'll actually say the words evaluate formula on there. So it'll be nice and easy to find. And then right next to the evaluate formula tool, we have trace precedent and dependence, which is also located under the formula tab, just on the next slide here, Therindu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And essentially, trace precedent points arrows from the cells affecting the cell that you have selected, and trace dependence points an arrow towards the cells that it affects. So essentially what that means, let's say we have 2 plus 3, and then and then the last cell is a sum of those two. 2 plus 3 is 5. If I trace precedent on that sum value, which is 5, we'll see an arrow from 2 and 3 going to the 5. And then the other way around for dependence, if I select 2 and then see trace dependence, it'll point an arrow to the 5, since the 5 is dependent on the 2. And then next, we have the goal seek tool, which allows you to choose a target value for the output of a formula by changing the value of one of those cells that the formula is dependent on. So back to that 2 plus 3 and then sum the 2 example. Let's say we want the value to be 6 instead of 5, and the 3 is wrong for some reason, then essentially we would select that cell that has a sum function, 5, and then our input value would be, so our target value is 5, and then, or we set our target value to 6 instead if we want it to be 6, and then our input cell is the cell that holds 3, which is wrong in this case. Then what this tool does, it'll change that 3 to a 4 to match your target value that you want for 6. Obviously, it can only deal with one cell as your input cell, but this comes in very handy, again, for validations, error checks, bug fixes, etc. And with that, I'll pass it back to Therindu for a quick demo with our examples.
Yep. Okay, so the first tool that Hugh talked about is the evaluate formula tool. And for this, if someone had hypothetically, made a worksheet that you think is terrible and has some super complex formula in it, well, that would be me. I made this sheet, and it does have a super complex formula in it that is really terrible. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this under that complex column. You're going to take this formula, you're going to paste it in here. You only need to paste it in one, honestly. But yeah, so, and then you're going to click on a cell. I'm confused by this formula. I don't understand it. So we're going to go to the evaluate formula tool. And yeah, so this shows exactly the order in which Excel evaluates this formula. So first, the first thing that it starts with is what's underlined is the last name. So if I click evaluate, it shows that in this case, the last name is Anderson. And then it highlights this part. So if I take left Anderson 1 and evaluate that, it's going to give me an A, right? Because we took the first letter of the name. That's going to give me an A because the first letter of Anderson is A. And then again, it's going to highlight or underline the table 35 loss category. And once you click evaluate, then you get to see kind of what the output is. So this is a lookup function, so it's a little bit complicated. And again, like at any point you can, I'm not in a great spot for this, but if I had done this, yeah, I might try backing out a little bit just so you can see. If I zoom out, okay. Excel was glitching there, but okay. So if I click on it, go back to evaluate formula, did the last name, Anderson 1 gets an A, and then it's a lookup tool, so it gives me the range of cells, which is wrong location. Okay, it's an A, then it gives me the range of cells that it's going to look A up in. It's going to look up in AD2 to AD27, which is the A to Z here. it's going to look up A in that, and then it's going to have the return array here, which returns number. So it's going to return the like basically A is 1, B is 2, etc. And then once it does that lookup, takes A, looks it up in here, returns this column. So it's going to return a 1, evaluate. And yeah, so it returns 1 because A is the first letter. And I put if it's greater than 13. So in this case, it's not. So that would give me a false. And, I'm sure you don't want to hear the rest of this, but eventually it'll just keep going and it'll give you your output, which is false, which is exactly what it has here. So this is a great way to see what's happening in your formula, where you might be going wrong. And yeah, it's just a really great tool to use. Yeah, so then you're going to click on, just for simplicity, this loss premium 2023, and we're going to go to trace precedence and dependence. So in this case, we're going to trace precedence. Just click this, and then it shows you that this cell is getting its values from premium 2023 and loss 2023, and it's going there. Super easy. Remove the arrows. Then if I go here, this goes here. So if I do trace dependence, oh, I guess it shows that it's going here and it's going here. And so these cells are dependent on this one. Pretty easy to use. It is a godsend when you're doing stuff in Excel with another person's spreadsheet. So it's definitely a great tool to use. And I've got the goal seek tool. So for that one, you're just going to move over to this goal seek tab. I've got a really cool example here, or at least one that I'll think you'll find super relevant. But just to get the idea, we're going to use Hugh's example. I've got a 2, I've got a 3, and then if I do equals sum, highlight these two, I get 5, right? So you're going to go to data. You're going to go to what if analysis, and then you're going to go to goal seek, right? Did everyone find it okay? Gonna assume you did. If you didn't, please put in chat. Again, that's the data tab. You go to what if analysis, and then you click goal seek. So I am this is my cell that I'm trying to change, right? So I am gonna set H2, and I'm gonna make it 6 instead of 5. And I'm gonna do that by changing a cell. I'm gonna change one of these. So if I pick this one, then go back down, I'm going to change H2 to 6 by changing G2 to something. You don't know what. And then if I click OK, it finds that number. So G2 should be 4 in order to make H2 6. And that's how it works. A really cool example of this is you figuring out how much you need to pass in the final to get the grade that you need. So I've got should have added some more labels on here, but essentially I've got, what your thing was, the weight that it holds, and then the grade that you got on it. And then this one is like a sum product. So what it does is it multiplies this times this, this times this, this times this, and it adds it all up. You may or may not be familiar with that. But the neat thing about this is, let's say I want to get an 80 in this class. And assuming the final hasn't actually happened yet, I'm going to go here, what if analysis, goal seek, and then I'm changing this cell. I'm going to change it to 80 by changing this cell, what I get on the final. Go back down, changing cell D9 to 80 based on cell D7, which is my final grade. I press OK, and it shows me that I need to get a 68.95 on the final in order for my final grade to be 80. And yeah, so this is kind of what we had for you guys. I was going to go a bit into pivot tables. I'm not sure what everyone's time appetite looks like, though.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead with the examples. Feel no obligation to stay for the rest of this. But personally, I think it will be beneficial for you guys to see the basic with pivot charts and a little bit more graphing with combo charts as well. So we'll just go right into the concepts of combo charts. So a combo chart,
Sorry.
you're good.
Yeah.
So a combo chart allows you to combine two or more chart types to allow you to better interpret and visualize the data. So again, for a simple example, let's say we want to compare revenue versus units sold. We can then use a combo chart to have both of those data sets put into one graph. So we can compare and contrast the two values and derive whatever information we need for that situation. And I think this will be, and alongside pivot tables, I think it'll be a lot more intuitive on an example. So I'll pass it right back to Thurindu here.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so we are going to head back over to that data tab. And you're going to go to loss 2023 and loss divided by premium 2023. Just highlight those two columns right there. Just those two. And then you're going to go to insert. And then you're going to click this little button to get insert combo chart. So click that, just click something that you see. And yeah, so we've got a combo chart. Let's undo that. And this is good because now we can mess with it. So this isn't very useful information because everything is on the same scale. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I think if you go to head over to chart design. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You can just right click, go to change chart type, and then you can have it so you have a secondary axis, right? That'll make things a lot easier. And so once you do that, maybe we'll make this. And yeah, click OK. And so you kind of have this. So you have your losses, and then you have your loss over premium. In this case, it isn't very intuitive. Actually, honestly, if you delete this, we're just gonna do the same thing, but just for fire, because otherwise, when you have like losses that are quite literally on a different magnitude, when you go to 100 and 300, it kind of makes it complicated. But so just take everything for fire, so it should be around 200. Again, insert combo chart, click it, and then right click, change chart type, just add a secondary axis, and now that looks a lot better. So yeah, as you can see, kind of as you can predict, our loss over premium ratio corresponds very well to losses because they are inherently related. And this is just a great way to visualize it. Like if you you could also have done this with like a line chart, for example, but it's if you just have any type of like two different types of data, it makes it really easy because you can add that secondary axis to visualize something so much easier. And yeah, so that's combo charts. Does anyone have any questions about that? If so, drop it in chat. And yeah, that would be something for you to explore more on your own. So you can add chart titles, stuff like that. One thing that I would actually recommend is like you can add a data table. I find that just super convenient, just so you can actually see the values in both of the series. It just makes it, like if you're not sure whether this value is different from this value, you can kind of look at the actual values to tell. Just makes the analysis a little bit easier sometimes. And yeah, so kind of got rid of that. And then we are going to move on to the pivot table stuff. So for your pivot table, you were going to highlight this whole table. We don't need all this info, but that's fine. Just highlight the whole thing. You're going to go to insert, and then you go to pivot table, and then from table range, and then it's gonna be the table that I already highlighted. I'm gonna drop this in a new worksheet just to just make things a little bit less messy. And yeah, so what a pivot table is it's just a really good way to summarize your data. Like you have all of this stuff. You can drag and drop it into filters or columns or rows, and then the actual values that you want to see. And it makes it just really easy to like categorize and kind of look at your data that way. You'll see what I mean in a second. So the first thing we're going to do is you can drop province into the filter column, and then you can start drop some of these into values. So drop premium in here, drop losses in here, and drop premium in here, and losses in here for 2023, 2024. So we might just do one, just 2023, just to make things a little bit easier. And then for your rows, you're going to put loss category because that's what we're concerned with. We're going to see how these work. Okay, so first of all, the first thing that shows up is I have a sum here, right? Well, that's not very useful to me. I don't want a sum because I have like, I think like I have a lot more. I had like 4 storm and like maybe 7 or 8 fire and like 10 water or something like that. So a sum doesn't give me a lot of info. But the nice thing about pivot tables is that it can show you much more than that. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on the series. So in this case, I'm going to do sum of premium in 2023. Click on it. Go to value field settings. That's very important. So make sure you click on that. Go to value field settings. And then from here, you can start messing around with stuff. So I can do count. And that shows me like the number of incidences. Yeah, so I have 12, 4, and 11. And then you can go average. This is actually useful because it, kind of shows me the average of everything. And yeah, so premiums were already a set amount, and I can see that my average shows up as expected. You can go to max. That's not very useful because all these are the same. So I might do the other one actually for losses. Losses are different. If I go to max, I can see the maximum loss in each category. I can go to min. There's a super weird product one here. Not sure. Like it literally multiplies all the values. I'm not sure why that's useful. You can even do like this one. I actually do use sometimes, standard deviation. That's a pretty cool one. Just click that and it literally gives you standard deviation. The reason it's showing nice numbers is because it's not showing all the decimal places. As you can see, it's not actually 9, it's 8.7. And variance. And then like if you know about the like, population, I think this one's for a population, this one's for a sample, or maybe it's the other way around, I guess. But yeah, all sorts of cool stuff you can do there. If you head back to average, or if you head back to sum, actually, another cool one you can do is you can go to sum, click that, then go to show values as, and there's some stuff here too. So one that I use all the time is percent of grand total. So if I drop that in, it shows like what percent of my business is each category. So fire is 40%, storm is 6%, and water is 54%. Yeah. And a lot of these I don't honestly use. But yeah, that percent of grand total one can really come in handy quite a bit.
And one more thing of note, if you don't mind me chiming in here,
Yeah.
especially with the pivot table, I think it'll be super beneficial for everyone here to really just play around with it. Try out all the different things that you can do with it because there's only so much that we can show you in this short demo. We have a data set here for you guys ready, loaded, ready for you guys to use. So just play around with it, see what kind of information you can derive using the pivot tables, see how you can sort things differently. Really just play around with it.
Yeah, and then we're gonna do one more thing here, which is if you have fields in a pivot table like you do here, you can actually do some calculations with it. So we're gonna go to here, pivot table analyze, then go to fields, items, and sets, and you're gonna click calculated field. So you can name your field. I'm gonna call it well, what we're doing, which is losses over premiums. And this is another way of making that column if you don't want to do it manually. So I have this. I am going to go, we'll make this for 2023. So I'm going to go to losses for 2023. I'm going to insert that and then divide by premiums for 2023, insert that. Okay. And now I have this. Again, you're like, why is this one that seems wrong? It's because it's not showing enough decimal places. So if I go here and add some more decimals on, you can see that, yeah, so on fire, we're perfectly or basically perfectly even. On storm, we lost a bit of money. On water, or at least losses were lower than premiums, so your company would have made money, for example. Yeah, was there anything else I wanted to do? I guess not particularly, but I did make a little bit of a story with the data. So if you want to load in uh, if you want to load in the 2024 stuff as well. So you're gonna go here, premium 2024, loss 2024. And then for this one, like we already did this column, so I can just take loss over premium 2024 and kind of load all that in. So in this case, like your job as an actuary is, at least if you're working with Excel, like one of the things you might be doing is trying to explain what's actually going on. So you kind of have this and, oh, right, I have a sum here, which isn't useful, so I need to change. I should change all of these to average, just to make it easier to visualize things. Okay, value field, average, gonna go to no calculation. This is annoying. I don't think there's any way around it though. Gonna make all these an average. Yeah, there's some weird decimal places, but as you can see, storm looks pretty good, water looks pretty good, but fire has gone up significantly, or at least, losses are 106% of premiums, which is when insurance companies start to worry. And so here you can kind of see what is actually going on. So this is kind of in the way, but if I click on this, it actually takes me to, fire. And I can see here that 2023 looks great if I dial back the number of decimal places. And by the way, to do this, you just like double click on the cell of whatever you were looking at. So I was here, you just double click on this and it kind of pulls this up. You can see that in 2024, there were some places that were hit really hard. So here and here. And you can also see, coincidentally, because I made this data, that all of it was in Alberta. And so you might be able to explain what happened there. In this case, in 2024, there was the Jasper wildfire, which was massive, and that would cause your losses to be a lot higher than what you'd expect, for example. So that would be your explanation of, you know, why was 2024 so bad? It was so bad because of everything else looks fine, but Alberta just looks terrible. And the reason it looks bad is because there was a forest fire in Alberta. Ignore the description. These weren't, entirely accurate. Yeah, so for example, if you kind of head back over here, like there is some kind of like explainability to this a little bit. Because if like if you did this by like name bucket, right? Like Q to U looks bad, but as an actuary, you can't be like, oh well, clearly people with the first name starting with Q to U have something wrong with them. It has to actually be an actual reason that you'd be like increasing insurance rates for example. And so you need to look hard into the data and then to be actually able to explain what's going on. And a pivot table might help you do that as I showed here. Yeah, think that is all that we have for you guys today. And by the way, this is like riddled with Easter eggs, just as a fun thing that I did. There's a couple names here, but oh well. So have fun with that. And even the streets a little bit. Yeah, that's just some fun stuff for you guys. Yeah, so I think that was our demonstration. Thanks for joining us.
And if you want to pop back to the slideshow, just on the last slide here.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, then that's the end of our session. Please check out our YouTube channel for future EXCELerate content and even more coming in the future months. And also join our Discord, where if you can't think of any questions right now and you take home the assignments and some questions come up inevitably, you can toss that into the Discord channel that we have here. Or if you simply just want to chat and connect with fellow students across the country, maybe a little bit of trauma bonding. We're all going through the same struggles here. That's a great place to get started. And with that, thank you all for joining our session today. Therindu and I will stay behind for a few minutes if there's any questions about today's session or even the beginner session that we have posted on our YouTube channel. And have yourself an amazing rest of your day. And we hope to see you all in our advanced session 2 weeks from now. And yeah, we'll be here for a couple extra minutes for any questions that we need answered.
There will be that homework portion sent out. So again, for that Discord, if you need help on the homework, just reach out to people on Discord. There will be other people who have the exact same question as you. So please don't be afraid to ask. And yeah, if you have any questions right now, we're free to answer. Feel free to ask and we'll answer.
And special thank you to everyone who stayed behind up until this point. And feel free to ask the dumb questions. One thing my first leader told me in my first co-op term was he'd rather have me ask 100 dumb questions than me make one stupid mistake. So dumb questions are always smarter than a dumb mistake.